Let me see here. So, mashallah, the blessing of God be here today in another Quran study. It's a huge blessing of God that He has allowed us to be here, and we need to be thankful to God. If you have any problem hearing my voice, please let me know. Uh, so, we'll be reading from Surah 15, verse number 14. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. I seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. Even if we opened for them a gate into the sky, through which they climb, they will say, our eyes have been deceived. We have been bewitched. We placed galaxies in the sky and adorned it for the beholders, and we guarded it against every rejected devil. If any of them sneaks around to listen, a mighty projectile will chase him back. When you read the verses like that, and even open a gate into the sky, I mean, these are like some shocking statements that one would wonder that why someone will not believe. I mean, this is a huge, huge uh, miracle type of situation going on here. And then if you read the surah number 6, verse number 111, and it says, even if we send down the angels to them, even if the dead spoke to them, even if we summon every miracle before them, they cannot believe unless God wills it. Indeed, most of them are ignorant, and that's the consequences of their own decision. That's what blocking them to to look at these things. And similarly here, if you go back to the verse number 12, we thus control the minds of the guilty. And all it all starts from believing in God's you know that we when we see the message, when we see the miracle, at that point, if we still reject it, and if we still don't want to believe it, then doors starts to close upon us. Though this looks like a very physical kind of miracle, opening gates, dead speaking, angels coming down, miracle of 19, God says that it's one of the greatest miracle. uh, this, I mean, but they rejected it. As we are talking about the present time, uh, like we talk about the past stories and all that, but we right now, let's talk about the present time, and the present people, they are living, they rejected the miracle of 19, they have rejected the God's messenger, and this is the consequences, that they cannot access it. And even if you look at here, I mean, the way God has designed this universe, it's amazing that even if you travel at the speed of light, you can never leave this inner universe. There was a movie made, The Passengers, and a very interesting movie. And they in that movie they found a planet far distant, and it has all the things that we can imagine, and they transport people to that planet, but it takes 100 years to get there, and it's not even traveling at speed of light. The spaceship that they're traveling, it's a concept movie, I mean, something to ponder upon. It's going at a much faster speed, but not even speed of light. So in order to get there, it takes 100 years, but people will die before they even get there. So they put people, what Solomon was talking about, putting them to freeze. So they put their bodies into that kind of state where they freeze them, and when upon arrival to that place, they will bring them back to life. So this ship is traveling at high speed, and two people wakes up in the middle of something happens. Now they're trying desperately to go back to sleep, but they cannot. But by the time they arrive there, they're going to be dead. So this, imagine the way God has created this universe, that we cannot even leave our where we live. I mean, we don't even have that technology, and I don't even think that in 200 years we will have that. So we can never leave our galaxy, but God is the one can make it possible. So God is saying, even if God makes a pathway, in a way, God is saying, I think that we can travel into the sky and maybe leave our inner universe. And that's a huge, huge, huge miracle. But they will not believe, because they rejected God. They are Their brain, it's kind of shuts down. And mashallah, with becoming a submitter, you can sense that emptiness in people's eyes. When, like, you see people, when you talk to people, see that they are missing something in their mind. When you tell them about the miracle and you talk to them about things, the way they reject it, and you see, you're like, this is crazy. I mean, how in the world, like there's something missing in there, in the same. You don't want to be in that kind of situation. And the statements that they make is that our eyes have been deceived, or we've been bewitched. And probably similar things they say about the other miracles that God has sent, or any other miracle that, and but for the believers, God says that He placed galaxies in the sky and adorn it for the beholders. For those who are those who do believe in God, when they see God's miracle, and when they see God's things that running around and everything, it's just beautiful for them. But for regular people, they just look at it, and then there's really nothing for them. They just see that, even do when you look at a mosquito, that's something that you hate. You don't want that to be, because it drains sucks out your blood and causes disease. But even if you look at the little tiny creature, the amount of weight you put it on the scale, the sensitive scale that you measure gold and stuff, it may not even barely move the digit does anymore, because it's pretty much weightless. And that weightless creature has all the mechanism of life. It takes off, it has wings, it has a brain, it has some kind of green kind of blood in it that goes around in the body. And the 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 legs of a mosquito is so thin that it has joints, and it's somehow it moves, it controls by the brain of the mosquito, the way it walks and look for the right spot on the skin and everything. And it has a needle that has 7 layers that injects into the skin of the and it finds it has a sensor that detects where the vein is. Then it numbs the area. It has something numbing in that tiny creature. It has no weight in it. And then it injects the one fine needle, injects the numbing medicine, and then try to suck the blood. We don't even know until it's too late. And not only that, it's kind of a drop of blood that it fills up its belly and takes off with all that weight, the creature that has no weight in it, with eyes and everything. I mean, think about it. And then at the same time, also reproduces itself. I mean, if this is not a miracle, I don't know. I mean, just looking at a small creature, this is what the beholders see that world with this kind of eyes. But they see everything. They see any bird flying, in massive numbers, and you say, they always look at it, and this is a miracle. But a disbeliever is basically is there's nothing. Imagine you're looking at a beautiful view. All what you need is eyes to see that. But if you don't have eyes, you cannot see the beautiful scenery or whatever you're watching. So in that sense, the heart, that in the eyes of the heart, they don't have that. They can see the colors, but they cannot process the information. And that is a huge, you say, something that they don't have. I mean, while believers, they enjoy this world, their heaven is right here. They enjoy God's blessing. When they even eat the food, they praises God with the taste buds and all the things that you have given us. Everything so these galaxies are adorned for those beholders. And but for the rejected devil, it's guarded. Yeah. There are two meanings comes to mind from 17 and 18. One is that the devil, that Satan and the jinns, that they rejected God, they try past this inner universe to go out of the second universe to listen to what's going on up in the heavens. But as when they get close to the outer wall of the inner universe, God has placed a system like a missile type of thing that chases them down, and they cannot cross that barrier. I mean, imagine, as we talked about, our own galaxy is huge, that it takes 100,000 years at the speed of light to cross. Imagine our inner universe is massively big. I mean, I don't know, the numbers are crazy, like, I don't know how many, 95 billion years or something, to the speed of light to cross the inner universe. And that's even a visible universe. We don't even know how far the border is. And that whole ball is, the radius is so big. How are you going to guard this border? But God is almighty. Yeah, I mean, and it's not even, maybe like you have a country, and sometimes some people may cross it, but God's system is so precise that never, even in million years, one devil can sneak into the second universe. It's not going to happen. God's system is so perfect. in that sense. The other meaning, that allegorical meaning, comes to mind is that, and we have guarded against every rejected devil. That's my opinion. I mean, that's my thinking. Maybe I'm wrong. That in allegorically, God is saying that when they reject God's message, for believers, it's adorned, the sky, but in a sense that for rejected people, they cannot see the galaxies or beauty of this world in a way that needs to be seen. They cannot. It's like they're barred from seeing the beauty of this world in some allegorical way. That kind of fits in there. You know, see to the next verse. As for the earth, we constructed it and placed it on it stabilizers, mountains, and we grew on it a perfect balance of everything. We made it habitable for you, and for creatures you do not provide for. There's nothing that we do not own infinite amounts thereof, but we send it down in precise measures. And the footnotes for 20, it says, when we send astronauts into space, we provide them with precisely measured quantities of food, water, and oxygen. God created the spaceship Earth with billions of astronauts who work and reproduce. He supplied them with self-supporting system and generates oxygen, fresh water, and a great variety of delicious foods and drinks. So God is talking about this earth that we constructed it and placed stabilizers, mountains. I mean, who would know 1400 years ago that the earth, the purpose of as we have a little picture here that it shows the earth in like a pie shape. These are the mountains. They go far deeper, and this is the crust is like 0 to 100 kilometers thick, and there's ocean even under the floor of the ocean. The mountain crust, and I don't know what they call it, tectonic plates. They cover completely the earth, and then these are the different layers of the inner core, and this part is liquid, and it's really really hot inside when the lava comes out, and we're sitting on an extremely hot planet, and to life to sustain in this kind of environment is just a miracle. That how we every day everything is going smoothly. I mean, we have fire underneath, and we have space up, and then it's just how everything's running. It's a huge miracle, and now we know that the mountains play a huge role in our substance, and we grew on it perfect balance of everything. I mean, the some people think that it's evolution. Yeah, I mean, okay, living creature, they may evolve to a certain limit that you can say, but what about the non-living things, like elements like oxygen, carbon, and all these things are in perfect balance. Let's, for example, even take the oxygen level, which is roughly around 21% on the surface of Earth. If it was less, then there will be no life. If it's too high, then everything will ignite. As we know that, those people, they do weldings, they provide the higher concentration of oxygen to the fire, which makes the hot fire so hot. So if oxygen was maybe 50% or some high, the whole Earth will ignite into the fire. So how all these systems come into existence in a perfect balance. So we have greenery, we have lakes, we have water, um, and the water itself is so heavy. Like one time I was trying to pick up like a 20-gallon of water bucket. I couldn't even pick it up 20-gallon only. I mean, it's really, water is really really heavy. Imagine this trillions of gallons of water on the ocean floor, and it doesn't break the floor of the earth, or otherwise the water will just go seep into the lower part of the, because water goes towards the gravity. I mean, there's not a single hole in this crust. Otherwise, if there's like a giant hole open up in the crust of the earth, and the water can seep into the bottom floor and it just go down. I mean, imagine how God's system is. Yeah, I mean, how many times we look at things and say, "Wow, this is not a coincidence. This is a perfect design of life on Earth." And this, we're just talking about oxygen, and there's many elements on Earth that everything is in precise balance. If one thing goes off a little bit, then life will cease to exist. If wind doesn't blow, then we don't have life. Just the part of the wind, if the wind starts stop blowing, going one place to another, there will be no rain, there will be no water, and how will life will go on. Praise be to God. And God is saying that we have made it habitable for the creatures, and the creatures we don't even know. As human being, we think we are the one provider. I mean, if we have livestock or we have animals, that we say, okay, if I don't feed my dog, or if I don't feed my cows or whatever you have, you say they're going to die. What about the trillions upon trillions of creatures that live on earth? Who's providing for them? We don't even know they exist. And every once in a while we find new creature, like thousands of new creatures we didn't even know about these. And who has been sustaining them? Who's been providing them? The birds take off every day, millions of birds, and they find the food every day. They don't even have fridge or anything that to store. They every day they get provided for food, or ants that under the ground. And name, I mean, you have the the floor of the ocean, where the pressure is so intense that we can't even go there with our technology, because it will crush the submarines and all those things, because but their creatures live in there. I mean, how they are surviving in the solid dark. The sunlight doesn't even go there, and they have oxygen. They have all their needs in there. Some creatures have, God has put their body, they have light. So all these things to make one believe in God more and more and more, that this thing, I mean, you sometimes you sit down and you go like, there is God. I mean, of course you believe in God, but you like, all of a sudden comes out of your mouth, there is God. I mean, this is impossible to happen, all this thing, you know and one of the some like educated person, I was a scientist or something, he was saying that, he said, there is God, that it is insane to say that all these things come into existence by itself. And he gives example of this junkyard where all these old cars and piled up, and then he said, imagine there's a tornado goes through that junkyard, and everything is just flying in the air and colliding with each other, and all of a sudden it's all this random effect. There's a aeroplane, like a jet plane ready, built up all of a sudden, just by striking with each other, and with the seats and everything, and fully fueled. Imagine, could that happen? And it's completely impossible. You can do that tornado million times, but it will never happen. As we know, it will never happen. All this destruction is going to bring more destruction. The metal and all the junkyard is going to become more junkyard and garbage. Nothing good will come out of it. And how in the world all these big bang theory and all this explosion that happened, which God even talks about in the Quran, Surah 21, this perfect earth, I mean, with balance and everything, all the elements and everything. So, and this, as we in this age, we are thinking about going to Mars, and we want to send spaceships. So people are imagining that we can live in Mars someday. And so what they want to do is they're researching on a spaceship that can sustain water, recycle water, recycle oxygen, grow food, and all these things are they're considering in a way that so they can go there and then even live there. Uh, God created this earth without any outer shell. You have a spaceship, you need to construct it with solid proof, structure, with the oxygen doesn't leak, and waterproof, airproof, the vacuum proof even. I mean, this earth has no outer shell. The way God constructed it with the gravity, that everything holds on Earth. If the gravity goes away, the ocean and everything will just go up in the space. And what keeps the oxygen close to the ground is because it's a little heavier, and it stays in the bottom so that we can breathe. I mean, how in the world that happened? I mean, the oxygen is close to the surface of the Earth. The amount of weight oxygen elements have, the atom, the electron, protons, and all that. So it's on the base of the earth, and other elements are up in the high. The helium is on the top of the. I mean, this thing is a random fact. I mean, how rain cycle happens, all these things. God created this spaceship, self-producing human beings and all other creatures. I mean, all these things, when you really ponder, you think about it. You're like, there is God. And on top of that, God is saying that everything that God, there's nothing in the world that you can say God does not own infinite. You cannot say, okay, God has this amount of water. We have 7 oceans, and sometimes we are suffering drought, but in God, there's nothing that is not infinite. Everything is God has, like, the mountains of gold. God can create a whole universe made of gold and still will be infinite. I mean, there's nothing. And we our mind is so small that we think about small things, like money here, money there, small focus. We're walking on the earth creature. God wants to raise us to higher levels, and He's telling us, what you want, I have infinite amount. There's nothing that I don't own that is not infinite. I mean, do we listen to these verses? We should be imploring God for something huge, not something small. And the huge things are, number one, that God, that forgiveness on the day of judgment. That's one of the number one thing I can imagine. To have mercy of God. Imagine the mercy, infinite mercy from God is coming to us. These are the things that we should be really thinking about, instead of the material things. I know a lot of people that pray, God, make me go into heaven, and Jannatul Firdaus, and all these kind of, heaven, 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 heaven. They miss the part that we should be hoping for is God's mercy, and have be forgiven on the day. These are the true treasures that, imagine the mercy of God. It will be, it's a huge, there's no comparison to anything of anything like that. And the verse number 22, and we send the winds as pollinators and cause water to come down from the sky for you to drink. Otherwise, you could not keep it palatable. It is we who control the life and death, and we are the ultimate inheritors. And we fully know those among you who advance, and we fully know those who regress. Your Lord will surely summon them. He is the most wise, omniscient. God is saying that, He's the one doing all this. He's reminding us, that we don't give credit to anybody else. This pollination that winds don't only bring rain. Wind also brings weather control. Otherwise, one place can get too hot. Like, for example, if we are close to the equator, and during the summertime, if it might get too hot, it gets hot, the air rises and starts traveling into the cold area. So it kind of, when, like, you have a air conditioning system, the air conditioner is running, and then you blow the wind to the pipes into the rooms, and then come back, and then it's a cycle. So it's sort of that kind of thing that God has, and that. So winds play a huge role in many, many, many things on Earth, and pollination is one of them. Who would know the pollination exists in 2000, 1400 years ago? Because the trees, and they're male plants, and then the male female plants, and they, just like human beings, they need cross pollinations. And bees do that, birds do that, other small insects, when they sit on a flower, they carry the pollination. And so the winds, and these pollinations on the flowers and all these things, they are so lightweight, and the way the wind blows, they take off from the plant, and then with the wind, they go to other plants, and then they cross pollination. I mean, do you think all this happened randomly? Do you think that the trees were communicating with each other? Man, we are so far away. I mean, my roots are in the ground, I cannot move. Come, what should we do? Okay, uh, let's blow the wind. I mean, do they were communicating with winds? And okay, I'm gonna or over years, the pollinations, they say, okay, we're not getting pollinated. We gotta make these small and lightweight so the wind can run, and then I can get yours and you can get mine. I mean, do you think they were communicating? Was this like kind of evolution thing? But even if that was the case, by the time they would have, I mean, is this by far shot the it can never happen. But even if that, you consider that maybe the case, that evolution caused them the winds to pollinate, or the winds were blowing, the plants were like evolving, and then by the time they create their pollinations lightweight enough to travel, they would have been dead. By the time, with like the penguin story, by the time they can keep the food in their belly for months for their newborns to feed, they would have dead. They would have ceased to exist. So very clear sign that there is God. And then drink the water. I mean, as we know, that when the water leaves the ocean floor, the ocean has the parts per million. The parts per million is how much elements are in the water. And like so there's a scale, parts per million. The water that we get at home from our local water supply, it has roughly like 200 parts per million, but the ocean has I think somewhere around like maybe 2,000 or 3,000 parts per million. So it's very, very a lot of salt and a lot of stuff. But when the sun shines on the ocean, only water is allowed to evaporate. And that's one of the barriers that God talks about, that nothing can cross that barrier. When the sun shines on the water, only H2O, that pure water, rises up, and then the wind blows them into the mountains, and it comes. We cannot make it palatable, though we have some technology now that we can do reverse osmosis and all those things too. There are some countries they are doing it, taking ocean water, but it takes a lot of energy, a lot of force and power to generate, and it's not even that good, and it needs a lot of repairs and a lot of cost and everything. But even 100 years ago, we would have died. We would even be here today if that wasn't. Who's doing this? Do we thank God enough for all the water that we drink? And then God said, I He's the one controls life and death. We sometimes get afraid of, what's going to happen. We forget this kind of words, that He's the one. If my time is now, or not now, then why should I even worry? I should put my full trust in God. Even somebody comes and put a gun on you, give me all your money, and you should know that if God is the one controlling, you do what you can in your part, but then at the end, that He's the one controlling all this, and He's the ultimate inheritors. Everything God is promising, and He also knows that even if you can fool yourself, but you cannot fool God. If you pretend to be a submitter, or you pretend to be righteous or something, He knows your innermost thoughts, and you cannot fool Him. Are you doing it for show off, or are you pick and choose what you want to do? All these things He knows, who would advance and who regress. There's nothing hidden from Him, period. There's no point of making fooling people, because even if you fool people, if they see you righteous, what's positive is going to come out? They can do nothing for you. Even if they sing praises of you, there's nothing in it. It's like saying to your computer or Google that sing me praises. It's just nothing. It's nothing. What really matters is what God thinks about you. And you cannot fool God. So focus should be you know on God, and God says He will surely summon you. This is the words that when God's used these words, I will for sure summon you. He doesn't have to say that, and He will summon us. And He's the most wise and omniscient. He knows everything. Then here comes the story of the human race. We created the human being from aged mud, like the potter's clay. As for the jinns, we created them before that from blazing fire. Your Lord said to the angels, I am creating a human being from aged mud like the potter's clay. Once I perfect him and blow into him from my spirit, you shall fall prostrate before him. The angels fell prostrate, all of them, except Iblis, Satan. He refused to be with the prostrators. So this is where all begins, and this story is mentioned a few other places in the Quran, even in the Surah number 2, a lot in detail. It was because God knows our innermost thought, and one of His creatures, Satan, has some thoughts in his mind that because God gave him so many powers, that his ego came into, like, I can do that too. I can do this. I can do that. He'd start taking things upon himself. So God wanted to expose him. So for that, God could have put him in hell, and then say the angels would have said why God did that. So God wanted to show his what he knows by creating a human being from aged mud. So aged mud, in spiritual world, was just a very small thing, a minute creature walking. Imagine God comes and tells us, I created this tiny ant. I want you guys to prostrate, and you would be like, well, I'm a better creature. Why would I prostrate to a tiny ant? It was just sort of that kind of situation, that he was a very lowly creature. And angels, they obey God and they prostrate. But so He's telling them that so the jinns were created from blazing fire. So I don't understand, the jinns, Satan was an angel before. Was he created maybe different? All the angels are created from blazing fire, or the jinns that they refuse, they sided with Satan, they were also angels, they become the part of the negative. They were blazing fire. But in either way, This is nothing to be discussed. We need to just focus on what God is talking about here, that we were created from lowly creature, and then they were created from blazing fire. Even fire, creating something from fire, we cannot imagine how can you make something out of fire. We can cook something with fire, or but in fire itself, can you make something with fire, like a creature walking, such an advanced creature? But God can do it. So he's telling the angels in advance, I am creating. He's telling them ahead of time, a human being from clay. So imagine, this thing hasn't happened yet, but he's telling the angels, I am creating that in advance, and from potter's clay. Once I perfect him, now follow these steps. He's already telling them that I'm going to do it. And then he said, I will perfect him. Perfect him in which way? I mean, he will be as we know, the human body is such a complex or part of life. I mean, there's so many different things that goes on in our body, and it's insane to even think how we live. There's trillions upon trillions of just bacteria and viruses in our body that doing, because if they are gone, we don't even exist. Then there are elements, sodium, potassium, magnesium, and on and on and on. We go to the lab test, there's like a list of things. There's so many things, different PTH levels, and your many levels of different chemicals, and all are running in the blood in one liquid into your body. Just imagine, all mixed together. They don't cause each other problem. Like, you mix so many chemicals that they're not gonna work, but they all mixed in blood. So when you go to the doctor's office, they just draw some blood, and from that blood they can run anything. Basically, everything is in there. There's such a harmony with all working together. And this is a shocker. Like, when you have air conditioning system and heating system, so you set your temperature to 70 degree. So the air conditioning and heating system are working to keep that temperature room 70 degree. So what else you need? You need a heating system, you need oxygen system, and you need a sensor that tells both systems that what's the temperature, and to fix it, to keep it 70 degree. Imagine, like sodium, potassium, magnesium in our body. They are in a very narrow window. The levels have to be in that level. And just like air conditioning system, if goes up, their systems place multiple systems for like oxygen. They come into action to keep that oxygen in your blood in the same level, or potassium or sodium. So there, for each element, there are system from the up and the bottom, the control not going up and down, and their sensor. That otherwise, if we don't have sensor, how would we know how much sodium we have? And you have like high sodium and you die. So there's sensor for everything, and in perfect harmony with each other, and talking to each other, and making all these different elements. And then there's systems upon system, your brain systems, and your lymph nodes, and your heart. I mean, there's like, it is insane how we are alive right now. And so he perfected. I mean, it's insane. I mean, to be honest, the word insane is in a negative, but I mean, how we are alive is crazy. And then on top of that, God said, I will blow into him from my spirit. Now this lowly creature perfected, and then spirit God. What is spirit of God into that lowly creature? Are you going to put a price tag on God's spirit? You shall prostrate before him. And they all did. What did Iblis say? I refused. I don't want to do that. He's a lowly. He forgot that who is the one saying. And another place, God says, I created this Adam for my own hand. So if you love God, you don't even care about the product. You don't even care about what is in this thing. You love God. He created with his hand. Just that alone fact, you should be like, oh my God, that's it. You know, you love God, you just fall prostrate of that. You don't even question all these things, that why, when, or what material, or this and that. These things should not even be in a discussion at all. You just say, we hear and we obey. That's what we should be. And that's the lesson we learn from the Quran, that in Surah number 2, that we hear and we obey. That is the thing. We don't start judging, like we had this discussion that before age 40, God says that he's through his messenger. That's it. I don't even want to discuss that. Why would we discuss? We can talk about, oh, how merciful God is, but we cannot pinpoint things and why. Why would we say why to that? We say praise be to God. So he rejected, Then the story continues that he said, "Oh, Iblis, Satan, why are you not with the prostrators?" He said, "I am not to prostrate before a human being whom you created from aged mud like a potter's clay." He said, "Therefore, you must get out. You are banished. You have incurred a condemnation until the day of judgment." He said, "My Lord, respite me until the day they are resurrected." He said, "You are respited until the specified day and time." Yeah, I'll speed up a little bit. So, I mean, imagine this is you talk about. He flat refused. I mean, he's not even saying that God, okay, I will do it, or I don't want to do it, but I'll do it, or some kind of hesitation or something, or even after some questioning, maybe he flat, I don't do it. Period. I mean, this is a horrible situation. I mean, this is like the very far on the other side, extreme situation. And he said, "I'm not gonna do that." Whom you created. I mean, he forgot that he created within his own hand the most gracious. He perfected him, and he blew into him in his spirit. And we know the body is just a vehicle that we are living right now. We're gonna shed this body, and our mind goes into another vehicle that we can kind of understand. It's a soul, which is can grow in infinite amounts, and which can actually meet God, can actually look at God. We cannot even look at the sun with this body. We need filters. So with that creature, a soul, maybe that is some understanding that God when blew into the spirit, because that's why soul grows with God's worshiping God. So the spirit from God, it has a link. Maybe that is the soul, maybe that what it is. So how are you going to define that? I mean, but you focused on this mud. I mean, if had he focused on, okay, this creature is also made of spirit, a soul of God, maybe that might have shed some light. But he just focused on, oh, this tiny looking creature, and God banished him from it, because this is very, very wrong doing. Even at that time, he might have felt, "I'm so sorry, God." I don't know, me. I mean, there could have been exit, but God knew what's in his mind, and he will not gonna turn back. God knew that. That's why God created a situation to test him, and let him know also that what his thoughts are, and let all the angels, all the creations know what his thoughts are. And he already knew in advance what he's gonna do. And so this story was become more permanent, that the prostration was like a symbol, like an allegorical way to serve. In a way, God is saying, "I will create a human being and perfect him and blow into him spirit," that he wants to put these people on earth for this something. And the angels were to serve them. And as we know that we have guardian angels with us, and they are right, and the angels are the one blowing the winds with God's lead. They are the one brings weathers, and they all angels are assigned to different things. So they were supposed to service these human beings, and he flat out refused that. "I'm not going to serve this tiny creature." And he knew that there's going to be, at that point, that they knew there's going to be a day of resurrection. These people go on it, and all this stuff was already calculated. And so he knew that. So he's asking God that to respite me. And God said, "You respected," and all this thing, as we know a lot in detail. He said, "My Lord, since you have willed that I go astray, I will surely entice them on earth. I will send them all astray, except those among your worshippers who are devoted absolutely to you alone." He said, "This is a law that is inviolable. You have no power over my servants. You only have power over the strayers who follow you. And hell awaits them. It will have seven gates. Each gate will get a specific share of them." And then he's telling God, "This is your will." I mean, this is a blame on God. It is your will that goes astray. I mean, it's not God's. He's not sending him to stray. It was his ego thoughts, and he refused. And that's why God says, go, you go this way. And that happens to all human beings, that they refuse God. And it was their decision that we read in the beginning, that opens the gate from the sky, and they will still not believe, because that's where their decision was. That it's not God. If you choose to be with God, God will open the gates of heavens, that it will adorn for you. But if you are a disbeliever, it will open the gate, and you will say, "My eyes are bewitched." See the difference between both situations. And um, and he also knows, this is a system, is inviolable system, the God's system. Those who listen to God and obey God and respond to God the way it's supposed to be responding, Satan has zero control over them. He may whisper to them time, but he has no control over them. and that's what is mentioned here. And God is saying you can only control those who follow you. So as we know that, we see that clearly, and hell awaits them all, including Satan. You know what I mean? They're all going there, even though he knows where he's going. But I don't know what's driving that. That's why it's so important to respond to God's commandments, because God can go make you go off path, because if you start to fool God, because that's also we read that he knows our innermost thoughts, and he knows who aggress and who regress. All these things are coming into one picture. Imagine that. So and the seven gates, maybe there's seven layers of hell, that each will have whoever belongs to which each gate goes to. Like you get on board with the plane, there's a first class gate and there's a second class economy class. So maybe that's the case that God is talking about. As for the righteous, they will enjoy gardens and springs, enter therein peaceful and secure. We remove all jealousy from their hearts, like one family. They will be on adjacent furnishings. Never will they suffer any fatigue therein. Never will they be evicted therefrom. Be evicted therefrom. Inform my servants that I am forgiver, most merciful, and my retribution is most painful. My retribution is most painful retribution. Okay, so also God talks about heaven and hell, and then for righteous, you will live in heaven peaceful. There's no more Satan. The first time the Satan, whispered us to eat that apple and the tree story, but this time there's no more. He's gone. Now you live peacefully, no fear, no nothing. You live a happy, enjoyed life, and no jealousy. These kind of, we know that these things are put in our heart to test us. God has put these negative things in our heart, anger and all these things. All basically we understand. I think this all the negative things will be gone. All will be positive, love and respect and joy and happy. That's what the picture that comes into our mind is no tiredness. You will never be tired. And here, sometimes you're having so much fun. You go to vacation, which is such a beautiful place, and you want to soak as much fun as you can, but then you get tired. You sleep for 6 8 hours, and then there's no more of that. You never get tired, never bored, and all this stuff, and never be evicted from therein. I mean, this is the things that God's talking. I mean, there is nothing in this world that can inspire us, that something when you compare to this. I mean, you get bored with this. Like somebody's living in a very very poor part of the world, and all of a sudden this person learns about some first world country, and where there's all these things. At that point, nothing will make him entrust him to live in that worst situation, where it's very extreme poverty, war, and no safety. Everything is just bad, and he learns about, oh, I can move to that country where everything is in. So at that point, he doesn't care about this place. So when God talks about heaven in this world, you compare to these verses, nothing be like, oh my God, I'm just here for temporary purpose. And even while if I obey God, God will make this place heaven for me. I mean, everything will be so joyful right here on earth. So this is the message of God, for us, mashallah. And God is saying that, inform my servants that I mean, I know we make mistakes. Even as submitter, we make mistakes. There's nothing we can say I'm perfect. I'm not gonna make any more mistakes of wrong. We do make mistakes all the time, but try to prevent the mistakes deliberately. That's the goal. You don't want to make a sin and God is more merciful. I'll repent later. No. Yeah. You forget to pray or forget to do something, that's one thing, but he's more forgiving, most more. He will repent all our previous sins in the past life and in this life. That's what he's promising. And but also at the same time, his retribution is very very painful. So we need to take heed and listen to God, mashallah. So inshallah, stop here, and we can discuss any of the questions or verses or comments, inshallah. Praise God. Thank you.
Inshallah,
Thank you. Mashallah, brother. God bless you.
MashaAllah, brother.
MashaAllah, brother.
No question. The seven gates. Does Messenger talks about the seven gates, or is it the different levels of hell, or any understanding on that? Yeah, well, waiting. I'm just gonna, emphasize a little bit on that human body. That is just, it just makes me go crazy sometimes to think about human body. When I was back 20 years ago, when I was in college, and we were taking human anatomy and physiology, and at that time, I have already exhausted my, religion search. Yeah, that I've looked into different religion. Was born in Muslim, but then I've given up. I used to debate with another doctor, and he was also atheist. That some of the verses, and then we just given up everything, and it was become like, I don't think that just everything is evolution. And so when I was enrolled in the class, and then we will read about human how body works, and we start getting shocks upon shocks that, just alone human body, how it is impossible to come into existence. Many layers of, even like when you move your arm to all of a sudden pick up a glass from the table, it just takes like maybe 1/10 or maybe half of a second you pick up a glass. The mind, you have a thought in your head and you want to pick up that glass. The amount of stuff happening from your brain to the nerves to the arm is so many chemicals happen. There's like in your muscles, there's a calcium channels, and they open in like a very small amount of like one maybe hundred of second. All of a sudden they opens and the calcium runs into the muscles, and then they contract, and there's filaments and all these things so precisely happens. It's not like one part of the muscle firing more and less. Otherwise, your arm will not go into that direction, because everything has to be in a very precise measure. All the channels have to open in a precise manner. It's like you have so many knobs, and you can open water, and you have to open them all at the same time. Otherwise, one side will have more water and the other side will not. So your arm precisely reaches that glass of water with enough strength. If it's a styrofoam cup, it will not crush it too much force, otherwise it will break in pieces, or very lightly pick up that it will fall out of your hand. I mean, everything is so precisely with a second, and brings the cup to the mouth and tilt it in a way, that it's hot. I don't want to tilt it too much, otherwise my tongue will burn. Everything is precisely calculated, just that single action, and we don't think about it. And I mean, it's on and on and on and on. And during that time, I mean, I'm like, there has to be a God. I mean, this is impossible. This is about that was turning point for myself to, there is God. There is God. And my search was that, who is that God? And that I still keep that book as as used to call it, my Bible. That book, because that book turned me towards God, and it has this stuff that, I mean, it's just marvelous. To think the human body is so complex, there's no end to it. I mean, we haven't even understand the brain function, how brain works. Is so complex, so complex. How the dreams and the thoughts generates, and everything is so complex. And he says, I'm not to prostrate the one who created from the potter's clay. And you even not even talking about the spirit of God, or being, That's not even, we're not even discussing that. Just alone the fact that he created a massively complex human body, I mean, we should praise God, mashallah.
Okay, looks like there are no other comments or questions from anybody or any off topics even. But yeah, subhanallah, I mean, I just want to say that, I mean, just for the believers, I mean, God says there are signs everywhere and within ourselves and within all the creations, and you just have to look, and God's signs are everywhere, and they're all amazing. Everything that God shows us, when you see God and He shows you His signs, I mean, it will overwhelm you. I mean, your mind cannot even fathom God's greatness, as God says. So, but these signs are amazing. I mean, it shows God's omnipotence. Incredibly amazing. I mean, the more you see, the more you reflect. I mean, the more it just blows your mind. Completely. Subhanallah. So this is a good way for us to remember God and nourish our souls.
Yeah, mashallah. And God always shows actually people different signs. It totally depends on what you are looking, and um, based on what you are looking, you will be shown signs so that your mind is, as you mentioned, overwhelmed, and then you would say that, okay, this is not normal. This is beyond normal. This is beyond what I can see, and that's how God shows His signs. MashaAllah.
One thing also come to mind is that when God told the angels to prostrate, and they're serving human being in a way, if we put everything in, there's nothing that God wants us to work hard. I mean, if you really think about it, I mean, though we learned, God says to the human being that I created, I'm paraphrasing him, to work hard and redeem himself. But if you really think about it, there's no hard work in God's kingdom. Basically, if in the beginning to the process of admission test, but after that, everything becomes a joyful. Those people, they earn money by playing video games, and they can spend 16 hours a day playing games, and they earn a lot of money. And somebody who doesn't understand would look at it and say, wow, God, you work 20, 18 hours, 16 hours. But that person, it's a joy for them. They if they don't even have to sleep, they would do it 24 hours and earn money. This is one of the things comes to mind, is that when you really respond to God, and even uh, a disbeliever might think, oh my God, it's time of a sir, and I gotta get up and I do this and that. But a believer, uh, it's a joy time. Anything that you do is God puts fun in it. And He doesn't. There's nothing that He owns that is not infinite. So He can. For other people, they might look at you. Oh my God, you do 5 times a prayer. That must be hard, and you're smiling at them. You do this. Your religion requires you to fast 30 days, and you're smiling at them. God makes the fasting easy for you. You, I mean, in the beginning, maybe you might feel hungry and thirsty, but after some time, you don't even feel hungry all day long. Mashallah, these are blessings of God, and you're earning credits for doing nothing. Mashallah.
I also want to remind everyone to also update the app, God willing. So one of the features that you will have after this update will be that when it's actually time for the study, the app will call you. And so we have been testing that for a while, and it's working well for us. That's why you see Masood and I are always on time.
Does it only remind those people they are in the group study, or
That in
any?
the group study, yeah.
Oh, only the group study. Okay. Otherwise, all the people that have downloaded, they'll all be.
Yeah. No, just the people who want to join the study
Oh, okay.
and are members of the study, they
Mashallah.
get the invites. They get the calls, and
Okay.
the thing basically keeps ringing until you answer or decline.
Okay.
So I've been testing it for a while now, right? And it has like really helped me, mashallah, because sometimes you would forget that there's a study or something. And it also sends you a text message 15 minutes before the study, saying that study will start in 15 minutes. So we don't really need another like group to remind us or anything like that, like we have right now. And also another thing that was another thing that you can see in this one is if you listen to the audio studies, the audio study, you can actually search through the notes. Inshallah, maybe on Saturday, I will share my screen and I will show precisely like how it's done. But like it's very easy to like search through notes and jump to a certain audio based on the topic. For example, if you want to search insurance, you just type in insurance in the notes section search, and you see all the Quran studies where he's talking about insurance. And when you click on that point, that it will start the audio at that hour and minute, and you can hear the study. And then you can also add your own notes. So we've added that, inshallah. So
This feature is added to the website or to YouTube?
no, to the app.
Oh, okay, app. Okay.
Yeah, mashallah, brother. God bless you, man. I know when I met you last time here, you had this folder. You have all the audio tapes and their topics, and they're written in a word form, and then you can search. I wanted to ask you if you can get a copy, but mashallah, this is good that you put it in the app. That way
Yeah,
we
the
can
app is
actually
better
see.
because you just
Right.
click on it and it will play. So
Yeah, I remember asking you for a topic, and then you open up your laptop and you search the topic, and you jump right to that point. I'm like, I need to ask you for that. Yeah.
yeah.
Mashallah.
So
MashaAllah, brother. That's really amazing. You have done well. It's going to help,
yeah.
because I expected from Masood to call me every time, but I don't know. He forgets, I think.
But it's really good that Brother Jafar, you remember, okay? Because I don't call you.
No, we don't have to do anything. Can this app also pray for us, or?
That's a good one. That's the next project.
Yeah.
Well, it reminds you that it's time for prayer.
No, I mean really
Prepare
pray, right?
yourself.
In
No,
my name.
seriously, it has been a great help for reminding the time of the prayers. I mean, I always check my cell phone and make sure that it's the time for prayer. I'm always ready. Sometimes I go to the app like 3 minutes, 4 minutes early, and I say, okay, so it's 4 minutes. If I do my ablution, then 4 minutes is done, and then I do my ablution. I see that it's still 30 seconds, and I wait.
Yeah, we
Right.
had
And
problems before.
do you guys know about the widgets outside of the app that you can set on your screen?
No, what is it?
No, what is it?
Oh, okay, so if you go to your if you swipe all the way to the left, when you go to your home screen and you see all the icons, right, for different apps, right, on your home screen on your phone.
Yeah.
So if you swipe all the way to the left, then you see some of these small windows, right, like these small widgets of different things. There's one for weather and some other ones and stuff, right? So you can, at the bottom, if you scroll down all the way at the bottom, there's an edit button. If you click on that, then you see a plus button, and then you can add one for submission. So basically what will happen is, actually, let me share my screen. Okay, I'm gonna well, you guys continue. I'm gonna share my screen in a sec. I'm gonna do it from the computer. I'm gonna show you guys.
Found it, mashallah. Yes, that's really good.
Mhm.
Yeah, mashallah. I have I use an Android phone for like calling, but I also use a tab, iPhone, Apple tab, but that one is not updated to 13.0. For some reason, it's not doing it, so I could not update the
Oh,
app on the tab. But on the phone, I did, and mashallah, the when you open the Quran study, when you open the Quran to read it,
uh-huh.
and it's much more responsive. It
Oh,
opens up right away.
that's good.
Yeah, and it's very fast.
Oh, mashallah, that's great news, because everybody has been complaining about that.
Yeah, the circle goes on for a while, and then when you are swiping up, the only thing, if we can in the future, that if we can jump into a verse, like if you were surah number
No,
2.
that's already there. You see the dotted button on the right.
Uh-huh.
You click on that, and it's
Mm-hmm.
the option to jump.
Oh, really? Okay, thank you. I didn't notice.
Yeah, no problem.
Every time I open surah 2, and I have to keep swiping until I get to the verse.
Okay.
Thank you, mashallah.
Yeah. Also, I think, and also another thing you will notice is for people who have created profiles and that have signed up and don't have profile pictures and stuff. So they will be asked to upload some kind of picture, when they first start.
Yeah, you can put wedding pictures or whatever, birthday
Any
pictures,
pictures?
all the albums you can upload there.
No,
Just
just
kidding.
one picture. So,
Suleiman, your WhatsApp picture is very nice.
oh, thank you, Marcel.
It's a new one, right? The
Black and white one?
yeah, I really like it, mashallah.
So thanks. Yeah, Huda took that picture. We were just having a FaceTime call, and then I applied some filter to it.
Mashallah.
Okay, so Ali, maybe can you stop your screen share?
Oh, okay. Give me once again. Did it stop?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it stopped. I think I need permissions on my laptop to enable screen share. Okay, let me try now. Okay. So I believe you guys can see my screen now, right?
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So let me show you. So you can see the app now, right? You can see my simulator here for the phone, right? So see, you swipe all the way here, right? And then you see there's like a, go down at the bottom, there's an edit button. And you click on that, and then there's a plus sign here. You click on it, and you can see all the widgets that are available. And then if you just maybe type it, I think on the phone you'll actually see the list of everything. Actually, probably easier to just show it from my phone. One sec. Okay. So now you can see on my phone. So this is my phone actually. Okay, so if you go to the home screen, oops, right? So you can click on edit. Let me remove the old ones first. Okay, so just when you swipe right all the way, like these are all your apps, right? So you just swipe all the way. So then you see like an edit button here. You click on that, and then you click on the plus sign. Then you see all the apps that are available, right? So then you'll see the submission app in the list. So you click on submission, and you can see that there's 3 types of widgets available. there's this kind which just shows the time remaining, then this one shows all the times, and then this one shows both of them. So you select just whichever one you want. Right? Let's say I selected this one, right? Or let's select this one, and I say add widget, right? And I say done. So then you can see that this thing's there, and then you can order it to put it anywhere you want. Like I'm gonna move this one down. Very difficult to move these things. So I can move it here. So let's say, like if you're, in a hurry, like you don't have to go to the app, you just swipe right and you'll see the times right there, And you click on it, it will actually open the app for you as well, And also another good thing about it is that you can also move these over to your anywhere inside your screen, right? So you can just even add it here. So like when you see on your screen all the icons, you can just clearly see the prayer times there as well. You don't have to do anything else.
Oh, mashallah, brother. Looks really nice.
Yeah, and if you just click on it, it will open the app, right? Okay, so I can show you the thing about the notes, right? So I was talking about studies. So if you play one of the studies, let's say I'm playing this one, so you see there is an icon for viewing notes on the right hand side. There's one on the left hand side there's one on the right hand side for adding notes, and there's one on the other side for viewing notes. So I'm talking about this one right here, So if I click on it, it will show me all the notes, and so I can select if I want to search just this audio or all audios. If I select all audios, you can see that this will actually just give me a list of everything, right? But let's say if I search, I can search for, and I have the option to search for the exact phrase or search for like all the words or I can search for any of the words, So that just makes your search a bit more flexible. But let's say if I select if I want to, search all audios for insurance, I will type insurance, right? And I'll say all audios. And then you can see it just highlights every single audio where insurance is mentioned, right, with the time. And when you click on it, it will actually play right at that point, It will already started playing. It will have already started playing for some, yeah, it's playing right now. So it'll automatically go there. And then if I say like, let's say I said, oh God, decides, right? So like it will tell me. So, and the other one is to add notes. So if you want to add a note for any part of the, so when you say add, it will add the note where you were actually listening. So it'll already be there. If you want to add a note somewhere else in the audio, you can change the slider. But then you just type in your note, whatever note it is. And you say add notes, then it will become part of your notes. Only you will see those notes that you add. And you can search the audio. So like if you found something about a certain topic, you can add a note there with, about it, and then later on you can search for it. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
MashaAllah. Wow.
MashaAllah, this is really useful.
Really, brother. God bless you. This makes life a lot easier. Praise be to God.
God bless you guys too. So I guess if there are no other comments or questions, God willing, we could end the study. So thank you all for joining us. God willing, our next study is going to be on Tuesday. On Saturday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. And God willing, our teacher is going to be John. God bless you guys. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.